Welcome to Skyline Entourage Offsite, a podcast where we explore everything events, experience, and marketing. For more than 20 years, Skyline Entourage has been designing custom exhibits and working with companies to produce their events worldwide. Join us as we discuss new ideas and chat with industry experts to bring you the latest.
Dom here. I'm the creative strategist for Skyline for about a few months now. What I do is lead the design effort and also the activation effort. So whenever there is a booth that we need to prepare and the client has to devise a little activation or a strategy behind that, I'm involved with the client to devise that. Now, Skyline is in the trade show business, servicing clients around the globe. So our activities are mainly business to business in that purpose.
Yeah, and I'm Carla. I'm in marketing and communications at Skyline, so I handle everything in that sector for our office. I'm actually really excited to talk to you today and introduce to our audience our guest, Louise Murray. You're a transformational leader who inspires action through storytelling. This is something we're always talking about at our office. You bring together teams, stakeholders, and drive results for iconic brands. Like you've also been at Walt Disney, Cirque du Soleil, to name a few, and now you're the president at Thinkwell LA Studios. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Thinkwell. What is the role that you're playing there right now and the type of projects you guys are working on?
All right. So for as far as the projects are concerned, there's a bunch of NDAs that prevent me from doing a whole lot of that. So caveat on that one.
Right.
But Thinkwell, it's an amazing company. That's why I joined. It's the brainchild of three amazing, I call them serial entrepreneurs. So Craig Hanna, François Bergeron, and Joe Zenas. We're about 20 years old right now. And it's a design and production studio with definitely at the core of everything, the experience for, name it, the guests, the customer, however the brand or the IP chooses to address the audience.
Yeah.
And we have been privileged and fortunate to be working with some of the most amazing brands and IPs around the world. We're really, 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 really blessed. And what we do is when I have to explain to people that are not really in our universe, I always say that we are the hyphen between the brand or the IP and the ultimate experience that they want to convey the public to. We're really there to create businesses for people and bring to fruition and to life whatever emotive engagement they would want to have in real life with their clients, customers, public guests, you name it. So this is what we've done for the past 20 years. I've joined in 2019. I've been a big fan of Thinkwell for forever. And it brought me to come and live to Los Angeles and join this amazing group of very talented, very brilliant people. And here we are doing it, rocking it, and, really, really enthusiastic and busy with amazing work. It's easier to talk about the stuff that we've done in the past, as I want to thread carefully on what it is that we're working right now.
Of course.
But it's exciting. All of it is exciting.
Nice.
So the past, the present, and the future.
So in this time too, everybody's going through obviously this pandemic and getting, affected in so many different ways. You just touched on the amazing team that you have. I'm sure it's a large team as well. How has your leadership style been affected or influenced or changed during this time working from home?
What you have to look at when we're dealing with the reality and the ecosystem we're dealing with right now, it's all about flexibility and it's all about patience, right?
Right.
So because I have an amazing team and people that are dedicated to really delivering on whatever it is that we promised that we could, we have moved away from our studio and have moved into all of our homes, disseminated all around LA. And we are, doing the work from home scenario where it has been going extremely, extremely, extremely well. I think it's bringing the collaborative nature of everybody to the surface in a way that potentially could not be there if we were right next to each other all the time.
Yeah.
There's a mindfulness from everybody that is both inspiring and amazing. And it gives me great hope, really, really, really great hope for whatever's in store, really, you know.
And I think you touched on something. I don't know if it's just because of circumstance, but it's almost forced people to sort of have that mindfulness and have that compassion for colleagues and trying to get the work done, you know?
Absolutely.
We're still working on projects currently? I know you said you can't talk about them specifically.
Yeah,
but
we are. Yes, we are. We're very fortunate that way. You know, it's all about having vision and understanding that certain folks are not living in the day-to-day delivery, but we're working a lot with people that are planning for projects many years down the road. So that's, of course, very, very helpful to maintain what we are doing. But at the same time, we have to take the current situation. We have to take that opportunity to rethink the future and get ready to, I always say to people, I'm hoping you're getting plenty of rest, because once the pause button is done, we're gonna be running, you know?
Yeah.
We're gonna be running, and we're gonna be running because we're gonna be the ones with the solutions that are gonna be there to be activated as we will have used this time to really envision what the needs are for people. And when I mean people, I mean organizations, and I mean potential clients, and certain things that we can't even describe right now, but they will come to manifest within days, weeks, and months. And I think what's very, very motivating is that the ever-changing landscape. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but whenever you take a bit of time to either watch the news or listen to what's going on, we're all being asked to be tremendously patient. I think it's awesome to be patient. What I also think is, let's use this time to envision potential futures. And that's what we all need to do in all aspects of our lives, but also live today to the outmost of it for what it is that we know. And there's a bunch of stuff where we don't have control. So, hey, you know, there's many ways to go about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm interested in understanding the projects that you're working on. How has the pandemic affected the kind of conversations you're having with the brands in terms of thinking long term? Because everything, like you said, is changing so quickly. We're asked to be patient. I mean, I know in our case, we've had so many moving deadlines.
Absolutely.
You know, when we're talking to clients or working on projects or things that have had to be halted, restarted, halted, and so on and so forth. How are you dealing with that long-term planning with all of the things that are going on now, and what kind of conversations are you having with your brands?
Well, what you have to think about is there's a difference between our brain going down the path of having a phased approach to reintegration than having a brand new, I'm going to call it thingamajig or something that is to be manifested within a few years. Of course, you can imagine that from a design perspective, more challenges have risen.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest ones is how to make sense of the capacity needs, right?
Yeah.
Because it affects on so many different levels. So first from a financial perspective, but also from as it is part of the experience itself, you have to be able to think in a non-phased approach to this for what is to be, but in a phased approach for what already exists. So we're talking to all sorts of clients that are in all sorts of stages. I think it's the capability that we have to really listen to what the needs are for the individual clients that we may get. So, and that's where, and I say clients, but it's more, we see it more, we envision them more as partners in what we do because of the collaborative nature that that's part of our DNA. And I've got, brilliant people, Craig Hanna, along with Dave Cobb and Cynthia Sharp, have just written a white paper on exactly this, right? The integration and how is it going to be in potentially large volume type of experiences, especially in theme parks environments, for that white paper that they created. But it's giving us a lot of opportunities to flex that brain muscle and think about things differently. But also think about it in a way where time plays an important part. So depending if you need a short-term action to a longer-term action, and you try to also go back in history to see what has been done in the past to deal with massive change that is brought upon where no one has control. Right?
Yeah, I was going to mention that as well. Would you say it's something comparable to what happened, for example, September 11, 2001? I know you were working at Cirque du Soleil back then.
At the time, yeah.
What, were things came to a complete stop sort of in a similar way, and you guys probably had to be extremely creative?
You're nailing it on the head from the impact of a situation, right? I think it is, when you think of September 11th, when you think of the financial crisis of 2008, the difference is this time it's all over the planet. September 11th was, although it had impact all over the globe, it was centric to one geographical.
True.
And
yeah, correct.
The issue at hand was known. The same happened in 2008, right? You're dealing with macro type of events that have levers that you can adjust, and you can, it will take time, but that with precise actions, there will be an impact and there will be this.
Yeah, it's a mechanism that was known. And
exactly. This time around, this ain't it.
No, there's no handle on that.
No, absolutely not. And it's bringing the entire planet to a halt. And one of the things that I get to do while, regular business too, but right now a whole lot more. And I want to be as generous as I can with the available time that I have to be, as I do a lot of mentorship with folks. And it's all about having people surrender a bit and kind of understand that everybody's going through this at the same time. So don't worry about what people are going to do when they look at your resume or your journey or whatever. They will know too that, it kind of came to a halt at that point. So, so get that stress off of you, because it ain't going to do any good. And it's really important to live the today and try to see what is possible in the future, but without having all of the information, because Dominique, as you named it right now, right? We don't know. There's it's kind of the invisible thing that you're fighting, and you add on all of the other layers that come with the fact that we're in almost stasis and we're floating, and it's like we're not comfortable that way. We're not. But that's where you have to make sure, as I said earlier, you guys better rest up, because when the pause button goes off, we're gonna be busy. So
And you mentioned that you're doing a lot of sort of mentorship in that sense. What advice are you giving brands or people that you're working with on just actions that they're trying to take now? So many companies, like you said, we've come to a halt. The events or entertainments or things that they've put in place has a dollar value attached to it. So what kind of advice are you giving them when a lot of their projects have just come to a complete stop and people are looking to generate revenues?
Of course. So what you have to think about is there's a different way of looking at an individual, doing mentorship for an individual, and managing the relationship that you have with either collaborators, partners, or I'm going to call them clients. You have to think that from a business standpoint, any organization right now, if I go through my stuff, I would go either will apply many times. So either quickly innovate, or either pivot, or partner, or slow down, or completely pause, and potentially even pack up and quit. You have to have, these are the times where you need to go to the core of your organization and really look at and reflect on what is it that you need to do. Just like when you're on a plane, when they say, you should put the mask on yourself first, right? This is what any entrepreneur, any organization needs to do. The thing is to be as healthy as possible after the pause button. What do you need to do within, and everybody's got different, every organization and every person has got different perspectives to check into and to look after so that's where you have to have the managerial courage to make the difficult choices. You really, really do. You have to go from a survival mode to a thriving mode, or prepare for a thrive, because you need to have enough oxygen to get you there.
Absolutely.
If businesses were ailing before, this type of event, not a lot of them will be made better by this. Not a lot.
Right.
And I'm trying to be as not generous, but
realistic.
as realistic as I can. And at the same time, if you do strategically the right thing, you can turn all of this into an amazing opportunity. And, remember that it's in those most difficult times that fortunes are made. The whole thing is about bringing your brain to react, and to when I mean react is it's in the reflection mode, not react too late. That's where you get to really enjoy the fruit of everything you've trained yourself to do when you can leap forward. And that's the tough part.
Yeah.
It's not easy. But the beauty of this is right now, you can try. You can really, really, really try. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no wrong
I feel like you have nothing to lose for some companies. And
Absolutely.
you may as well just, shoot. And if you shoot blanks, then something might stick. Do you see a difference with your company's global, you work with partners all over the world. Do you see a difference in how different countries are treating their approach to this time or this pause? From North America, versus Asia or anything like that? Is there a distinct difference that you see?
I'll say this. So my colleague Kelly in Beijing at our Beijing studio, when they went off for their new lunar year vacation.
Yes.
This is where the news hit their area, right? Their geographical area. And we are constantly in contact, all of us around the world within Thinkwell. And when we saw that, we said, holy moly, this will come here. What do we do? How can we transform as Beijing has been asked to transform? And before you know it, we had to, but we were already there,
right?
Because of the experience and the great collaboration that we have in between all of us. So we were able to prepare even better and learn, lessons learned from whatever they did to bring it over to us.
Yeah, think proactively, really.
Exactly. And we were able to switch it around and have, more than 100 Thinkwellians go and work from home, because our Beijing partners, our Beijing colleagues had done it before us and thrived through it. So it's really, this is where I get to really use this knowledge as a lever to not only differentiate us, but to put us in a position where we are ahead of the parade. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So from that perspective, when you look at being global, if you are able to, harness and harvest the learnings from the other areas, you can leap forward, definitely. So that's how I'm looking at it. From a, throughout this whole thing, it will go down in history where, leaders will be identified, and those that did not have that capability will also either be forgotten, or it will be said that leadership changed after that. But this is what the entire planet needs, is to think in a global fashion, but to have very strong local leadership. So depending where you are, and depending on the quality of leadership that the environment around you gets to benefit from, you will get to see different actions being taken with different impacts and different results. The jury is still out, as not enough time has gone by to say if one way works better than others and all that stuff. And I've got a lot of compassion for all levels of leader right now, where you are being asked to not really take a leap of faith, but really to have as much of a conviction that you are making the right decision at the time you're making it with the information you have.
Right. And it's interesting to see, sort of in your case, that you have almost I don't want to say a glass ball analogy, but you have your offices in Beijing and you can kind of see ahead as to what's coming, and not a lot of companies, well, not every company is global or has that resource or access. Do you see a change in how people are starting to approach events or entertainment or large gatherings at your different offices around the world that have started to sort of reopen? Because I know for trade shows in our sense, they've halted all over the world. And so we're still not back. We've seen Germany just starting to put, exhibits off of their mandatory close list and all that kind of stuff. So it's just slowly coming back. But with, parks reopening in, I think it's not Beijing, in Shanghai.
Yes, Disneyland. Yeah, Disneyland, Shanghai. Yes,
exactly.
Yes.
So they're reopening. And are you seeing, or what, maybe not what you're seeing, but what is your predictions on how people are going to, consumer behaviors are going to change towards large gatherings?
So if you go, there's so many angles to take on this, right? And that's the beauty of it. And that's also the tragedy of it.
Yeah.
If you look at what Disney has done over in Shanghai, reducing and also following what the authorities are looking for and asking for, with the 30% capacity, because that's what that's what you can read on what they are doing.
Yeah.
You have to think about, this is where you have to take your phased approach hat on, because you are dealing with, and everybody is dealing with, a whole lot of uncertainty right now, just in the general population and in everywhere we live.
Absolutely.
So because of that, when you are opening up the gates again to any event, to anything, you do not necessarily have all of the profound data that would get you to open up at 100% capacity and all that stuff. That will come later. That will take time. If you want to fight time, you may make a gamble and win, but you potentially could make a bunch of gambles and lose. The other part is getting the collective psyche to want to be in large groups again.
Absolutely.
You have to remember, people globally, it's being harped on them day in and day out to not be congregating. And this has gone on. We're in week 9 of confinement in California, and people have been at it longer than we have. Whenever I hear going back to normal, this is where I get shivers, because whatever was may be again. But if you want it like today, that's not going to happen. So what you also have to think about is, because everyone around the world will be coming back from almost a post-traumatic syndrome type of minefield, you have to think that the public, the audience, the guests, whatever the name is for whomever it is, it's the perception of safety and health will be premium to anything. It will be the alpha need to answer.
Yeah.
And the brands that will not be able to do so will be documented in a way that the regular people or just, ordinary folks witnessing things that make them uneasy will be distributing that. There are so many layers to what it is that you need to solve in order to bring back activity. It's the most complex thing that can happen when business is driven by momentum. I mean, everything in life is driven by momentum, but I would always say that stopping a ship is not as hard as starting it over again. And the fluidity of just operating and making things happen and having you hear people say, we've got a well-oiled machine and and the systems and this and that. It all works while everybody's in movement. The day you stop the movement is the day that you need to re-engineer whatever it is that's going to be needed to start back again, because there's so much more in the momentum than just having things turned on.
No, it doesn't work like that. I worked for Mattel for a very long time, which is a very big company as well. And I'm curious to have your take on one thing. Like, I know a situation like this is near impossible to predict, but at a higher level, like you were for Disney and Cirque du Soleil and so on, was there ever a discussion or a systemic risk assessment that if something like this or similar to this would ever to happen, there was some sort of a contingency plan in place for parks and attraction and tourings and an organization like that? Was it ever a subject that you brushed upon in your role?
Or even if you're thinking about that for future events now?
Yeah, as well.
Well, the thing that what you have to think about is when you're at the time when I was on tour with Cirque du Soleil, traveling all over the world with more than 250 people that are, so you're rarely in your country. No one is in their country at one time. And the fact that you are, traveling not only with humans, but with a bunch of assets that are securing the livelihood of everybody, and also ultimately the livelihood of the company. You get to think in a way because your show, your entertainment, your touring gene gets to be used a whole lot. The whole thing about momentum is totally understood and totally understandable. From an emergency plan and a crisis communication, we had this down path. Like, we knew exactly what to do and how to do it. A pandemic and a global phenomena is very, very, very different than having an event that hurts one company or one entity. That's a whole different ball game. And right now, other than the difficulty of not having people being able to congregate, the businesses that are the most affected are those businesses that organize these types of gatherings, right? Those are the ones that are the most
absolutely
hit in so many different ways. But what it also calls to is the nature of the financial risks of those organizations. So when you're looking at the different, you guys are based in Canada. So when you look at the huge ecosystem of a bunch of, smaller, bigger, medium-sized organizations that have witnessed or that have lived through 10 years of, at least 10 years, if not 20 years of amazing growth without having really slowdowns, 2008 and 2009, but still, it still went on. Now, what is affecting everybody is affecting the financial flux. So it's not only dealing with an incident, it's dealing with the ultimate nature of what you have set out to do. So it hits you right to your core. And this is where you go into the survival or the thriving mode and all that stuff. So it's greater than anyone could have imagined. I know of one organization, and I'm not going to say, I know of one organization that had pandemic insurance.
Very interesting.
Based in North America?
I'm not going to say.
Okay.
So they planned it because they learned from other important health crises, and they said it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So let's look at this. And this is the type of thinking you can imagine that if you were in that organization and somebody voiced it like this when it wasn't happening and when everything was rosy, if somebody shut them down and they didn't think that it was worth it, today they'd be in a very different situation.
Oh, absolutely.
I think what's even really interesting about what you're saying as well is that it's almost like now we have the opportunity for those big ideas or ideas that are very futuristic or that might seem impossible. Everything's possible now. And I think people are sort of taking it as we can't rule out anything. Opportunity, there's a lot of opportunity there, really.
Absolutely.
But I think it's really interesting that somebody would take that kind of insurance. I don't know how long ago they did that, but early on enough. I do want to circle back to something that you were talking about, or that we discussed around safety, and that being the number one priority. Something that I had come to my mind, and I do find is going to be a big challenge, not just on how people perceive what is safety and what brands are doing to be safe for them and at events and whatnot, but it's going to be a challenge to see how different mass gatherings or groups will open up, kind of like trade shows, because companies, especially companies selling B2B, which a lot of trade shows are based on B2B, they have their employees to worry about, and they're sending employees worldwide to these events. So it's not just, the end attendee who they're trying to target. And so safety is going to really touch so many levels, not just on the design of the booth for the attendees or the design of the entire show or the reduction of amount of attendees and that whole thing, but really, like you said, it's really in the psyche of people. And I can see a lot of companies almost potentially facing lawsuits if they're not really adhering to the most safe standards of whatever that might be in the future.
Well, you can imagine in your example, Carla, you can imagine that even the people that are organizing the exhibition,
right,
are going to be putting forward standard operating procedures that may get people to think that, guess what, this ain't worth it. This is not worth it. What you get to do, and when we said innovate quickly and pivot and do all that stuff, is how do you, like you guys, how do you move from an in-person time set type of event to a virtual digital phase approach to hold you over until the next thing?
Yeah.
And this is where all of those, days, weeks, and months right now is you guys need to strategically look at it.
Absolutely.
And just like we are, all of us right now are working from home. If you would have said that to a whole lot of business owners, that their entire crew would be working from home, even that I'm looking at what they're doing in the tech world with the because I'm in California, of course, the big guys up in Northern California with all of them coming out saying, hey, guess what, you guys will be working from home until the end of the year at least. And maybe that's it. Maybe that's the way we do things now. Going from you got to be all together at the same place to really have those creative collisions and to, well, guess what? You get to work from home, and those collisions will be digital, and they will need to happen. And productivity is not only potentially the same, but potentially even better.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so right now, when you're looking at these things, how does that affect the experience for your channel of distribution? Everybody needs to look at that.
Yeah.
And also see how it will be looked into. Again, short term, the more you find out, and then later, I can only hope that there will be a cure, a vaccine, or a treatment or something that will potentially get the collective psyche to agree that it's okay to be reliving in and enjoying things in a greater volume and group of people.
More from this interview after this short break. Direct the flow of traffic to ensure crowd safety in lobbies, stores, warehouses, or even events with our ready-designed floor decals. Or you can design your own decals to match your branding. Visit our website at skylineentourage.com and click on our shop page for more details.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that personally, I'm just really also interested on what is going to be the fundamental changes. You already touched on it, working from home on a corporate side of things. I watched an interesting video. I forget his name, but the CEO or the founder of WordPress has no office space whatsoever. So he's already been dealing with a team globally, worldwide. They have no office space. They don't do, and I don't believe in that. And this was just back, I think, in January, December, but it was filmed a long time ago. And he was saying, it could be the way of the future. We don't know. And at that time, it was almost unimaginable to think, wow, your entire team working remotely. And they didn't even call it that. He called it something else, and I can't remember now. But those are things that we see that not only employers are seeing, like you said, people can be effective. They can do what they have to do. Working from home, what other kind of fundamental changes are going to come and are going to happen, especially around safety, what we'd already touched about, and you mentioned potentially even having a vaccine. But if we're going to learn anything, then we do know that this is not going to be the last time. So we know that this could come around again. And so how is that going to change people's behavior, people's attitudes, how companies are going to have to adapt to these different scenarios that can potentially come, and what are going to be those fundamental changes? We've been trying to brainstorm in terms of figuring out what is gone in the past, what is going to be the future, and how people are going to sort of behave around that.
In your brainstorm sessions, did you guys get caught up in the, until we find a cure, or was there a limitation because of the phased approach potentially that is needed? Were you guys able to go over the hump and really do the potential future? Were you able to?
Depends on who you're talking, like conversations that I've had with people where I'm brainstorming with them. I think you kind of almost have to think, or at least the way I think about it is almost vaccine or no vaccine, what's going to happen? You almost have to pretend like there won't be one. Because even if we do have one, another pandemic could come.
Exactly. And I think it's much of a discussion. Like, I'm not sure it's going back to normal. It's almost like what's going to be the next normal.
Right.
And that's going to be very different from what it was. It's almost like trying to identify what's going to be the next normal and how to evolve in that.
I get what you're saying. What I'm thinking we collectively need, because so first of all, while you guys are having these discussions, a bunch of groups are having them all over the world, right? So, there's a lot more similarities than differences between everybody. What we need collectively is to have a good wash down and being brought back to zero so that we can leap forward again. Because right now we are stopping ourselves because of the uncertainty, the short-term uncertainty, because of our personal beliefs and values and the way that, that pyramid of Maslow is done. Currently, the basic stuff is pretty much under duress. So because of that, it's difficult to bring an entire team, and it's already difficult for one person. So to bring an entire team to think about the future in a way, make abstraction of the current hardship, gets the brain to
run around in circle a little bit.
Run around in circles. And that's where I think that we have to move from maintaining that role of leaders, but we have to become and not be afraid to be visionaries, even if whatever we envision does not come to manifest. Because it's all part of retraining the brain to do things differently. Right. And right now, if there's any time to fail and to fail fast, it's now.
Right.
So, and all of that stuff is only on paper for now. So, hey, go for it. Imagine it, try it.
Yeah.
There are things that will not change in the fact that whatever it is that gets to be done needs to bring value. Let's rebuild on that. What does that mean? What are the needs that have to be answered in this new normal?
Yeah. I almost feel like it's a nice opportunity for creatives. Now that the daily noise of the routine is sort of like gone, it's a nice channel now for creative to have a voice and innovate and propose ideas. Something's completely almost out of this world that was not taken seriously too long ago. But now it's like, oh, you have something? Put it on. Like you have the mic now. Go ahead.
You could. Yeah. You definitely could. There's with technology, there are so many distribution channels for those ideas to be heard, to be listened to be seen. There's a way to do this. There's a democratic way of having plenty of ideas come to the surface. And I think that the ideas could be potentially, never ending, but more importantly, no one should be judging those ideas, especially with the barometer of yesteryears.
Yeah, especially.
Sorry, this kind of plays bowling with everything. It just went like that. And okay, what is needed? And to have the courage to voice things right now shouldn't be looked at negatively, but should be praised, because even if it's not the right thing to do right now, it's one of the things that is needed to be done. And I always hate to be compared to people that come in and say, especially like week 8 or week 9 right now, oh, we shouldn't have done this and they shouldn't have decided that. Well, guess what? They decided whatever was the best with the information they had at the time they did it.
Exactly, at the moment.
So okay, you can waste a whole lot of energy, diminishing that. But I would see a whole lot more value into planning to build differently, and looking at financial models differently,
Right.
also.
Yeah. Really an important one.
And seeing, especially thinking that there might be some limitations on travel and the possibility of having as many humans in movement around the planet as we have experienced within the past years. It may take a while before getting back there, but it doesn't mean that it won't. It just means that whatever it is that you're thinking about has got to take that into consideration.
Yeah. You think it's going to be a case of quality versus quantity in the next, little while? There's going to be probably less offering, but a higher quality because it's going to be so.
Not necessarily. Nick, I think it's all going to depend the rate of survival beyond this pause button. Right. I really don't think that quality will play to it as much as the capability of the organization to survive past and to thrive past and to be built and to either to pivot or to innovate or to just do very sane management to pick up where you left off in a way that is still generating what you need to generate to conduct the business. I don't think it's gonna. It has to do with the quality of what is going to be offered. But that, somebody could say exactly the same thing differently, which it's okay. I'm not looking to be quoted in the year 2100 and say he knew what he was talking about. Wow.
So I think
and if I do,
I just wanted to piggyback a little bit on what Dominic was, I guess, trying to get at. I think it's interesting what you're saying, that it's not necessarily going to be about value, quality, but you did talk about value. So at the end of the day, we have to bring value. And I'm interested in trying to understand how companies are going to be able to merge that value with their product or their experience or whatever it is that they're working on or trying to launch with the end user in mind. And so what is that value going to look like, especially since over the years companies have really taken a turn. We went through the phase of transparency. Now we're in the phase of building relationships. People want to put their, speak with their dollar at the end of the day. They want to know the company, know how the production's going, that they're not using, faulty, manufacturing capabilities and all that kind of stuff. So people really want to know brands now. And at the end of the day, how will that affect value, and what kind of value more than what they're trying to do already? I know we've seen ads and stuff pop up, we're here for you and that kind of thing, but how is it really going to change, or what more value can companies bring in particular to events and entertainment?
So what you have to think about is right now, with everything that's going on, brands, IPs are going to be judged for years on what and how they're doing things currently. So I always identify a bunch of what I call and what I dub cash-rich organizations right now. There's some, and you could name them as much as I can. There are some organizations right now that are doing extremely well in this environment. They're doing really, really good. And how they act in victory is going to be extremely telling about their current DNA and the potential evolution of their DNA. So from a strategic standpoint, those that are not cash rich, but that either demonstrates greed or demonstrate that they do not care, it's going to come back to haunt them really well. And when given the choice as a consumer, as the ultimate consumer, when given the choice, because Carla, you mentioned, the dollar is the vote, right? When given the choice, right now, the public, the audience is in what I call in a great receiving mode, right? People are on that computer for a long time. They're in front of that screen, whatever size it is, for a long time. I mean, I would be delighted to see the numbers of the streaming services as they have right now. They've got data that tells a whole lot about human psyche right there. And this is where you will get to see when people have freedom again, right? Because there's always this this connotation. It's about freedom is about having the capability and the capacity to choose. So with that dollar, if I've got a dollar, let's say we're past this and we're into the phases where you can really choose something that is different than what we're doing right now, then you will see that the brands, the IPs that have shown generosity, that have shown that they were in it to make everybody thrive,
Yes,
will be the biggest winners.
I think you're absolutely right. I think situation like this really shows people, brand, and companies what they're really made of, and how they answer the people. Yeah, how they answer people, how they help serving the people.
Absolutely.
Will dictate how well they're going to do in the next 5, 10, 20 years, if there is such a timeline for that.
And it's the same for the individuals, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that the same can be translated to corporations internally for their employees.
Absolutely. Oh, yes.
Employees to be able to say, like, how flexible were you? How did you understand my needs? You know, you talked about Maslow's hierarchy, you know, the basic needs of people are being dramatically affected, and how our employers and what are they doing to help minimize that stress while still trying to get the most out of people has been a challenge. Not to take a turn off of events or anything like that, but I just wanted to make a parallel. I think it's really important.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. This is where the brand transpires on everything, right? This is where you get to see it from all of the facets. This is where you get to see where it thinks it has the most leeway to create some erosion to maintain the potential oxygen level to their liking. It's definitely part of it. What's going to come, I think, and maybe color that a bit differently is the fact that worldwide there will be huge unemployment numbers.
Right.
You know, we've gone in a very short little few weeks. The onus was on the companies to seduce the people to come and work with them. I mean, this role reversal is like huge and fast.
It was night and day, really. Now companies are on the other side of,
exactly.
They have a huge pool of talent that they can.
So it's going to be interesting to see how they act. Are you as magnanimous as you were when you were on the other side of the net? Or are you, like this is where you get to see. And I also think that from a basic needs perspective, the people are taking time to say, why are we doing all of this? Like, why, there's a lot of existential
for sure
questions being asked by yourself and have to be answered by yourself too. So, there's all that's going on. I mean, I think right now that if I offered in this week 9, if I offered any of us the possibility of having a Saturday night dinner with the people we love, even if it would be to be having grilled cheese and peanut butter sandwiches, I think people would take that over a whole lot of other things,
Yeah.
So right there, breaking bread with people you love, or people you want to get to know, or people you want to, we're going back to really, really, really basic things.
And in so many facets, I think it's a long time coming that it's needed and necessary for a lot of people, just in the direction that we've gone as a globally where we've gone. But I also think that it's also really to piggyback on what you said, it's really testing and showing the values of company. How much are they living up to it? How much are their proposed values that they put out there really maintaining and being able to foster those who work for them. It's
also to see right now, how are we replenishing our teams? How are we, and when I mean replenishing is just to feed the intellect, but also to use that EQ that, all leaders are to have, and to maintain a sense of authentic engagement.
Yes.
You're gonna see that all over. You're gonna see. I mean, that's what's gonna be talked about for decades.
Yeah. Hopefully, not too many people suffer as much as they will, or they are right now, and companies can come through this, and all those existential conversations that we are having make positive change in either organizations, or people get to make those changes in their own life. But this has been a super conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we really appreciate you taking the time, especially in, these times where I'm sure you're super busy and you have your own family and things to deal with.
It's long days, some of the
I
longest
know.
days. You get to sit in front of the computer. You're working with people from all over the world, so you get to sit. I mean, some days I start as early as 7 a.m. and I'm sorry for some people that's already late, but so you go from 7 a.m. to a whole lot of times 7 or 8 at night. And I have to say, when I get out of this little area that I've got here, and I'm drained.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm blessed because I've got an amazing team. We've got great care for each other, and we are also remaining positive to what's to come. It's all about patience right now. That's what it is. And let's use the time we have very efficiently to build a future.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to do. That's really, really what we need to do. And to be mentally fit, and to be, going out once in a while to take a walk. If wherever you are in the world and you should. That's what it's all about. It's making it, it's really that you got to put on that oxygen mask, like you would on a plane.
Absolutely.
Right now.
Super nice.
And with that, I think we'll end the talk, but I think we've wrapped it up super nicely.
It's a great note to wrap up on.
Yeah, that's a really good one to end on.
Thank you so much for the invitation, guys. That was really, really sweet of you guys to send out an invitation to the West Coast people.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's big things for you guys for sure. Look forward to see what you guys are working on. So thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you so much, Louise.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. Tune in weekly for new interviews and head over to our website for more episodes. While you're there, be sure to head over to our COVID-19 Business Solutions page to see what we've been up to. Because what does an event company do when there are no events happening? Well, we've turned our attention to support our clients and other businesses in getting back to work safely. That's why our designers have customized our lineup of products to improve your space and, more importantly, allow for safe distancing without compromising looks. We're also really excited to introduce a new lineup of UVC lights that disinfect any space safely in minutes and kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, including COVID-19. So don't forget to head over to our website at skylineentourage.com for more details on how we can help you. That's skylineentourage.com.